Whew. What's up, guys? Thank you for clicking on the video. So if you have a C5 or a C6 Corvette, anything basically with an LS motor in it, anything swap 240s, whatever, you're going to want to see this video, because this is a modification to the motor that I think was a huge upgrade. It was actually a modification not really intended for Corvettes, but more intended for LS swapped vehicles. But I'm going to tell you, I made it work. You're going to want to stick around. Check this out, guys. You're watching KnightDriveTV. So guys, let me tell you, the last thing that you want to hear or see when you're driving down the road is what sounds like metal just coming out from underneath the car. And that's what happened to me. This video is kind of long overdue, because the incident that I'm going to show you and talk about here today actually happened nearly 9 months ago. Basically what had happened was I was driving, had a friend in from out of town. My car only has about, well, it's got about 70,000 miles on it at this point, but as you may know, I had a supercharger on this car about a year and a half, 2 years ago, which I then took off and put back to stock. And so this part was actually the newest part on the car, and it's what essentially had failed in a big way. And this thing kind of sheared off of here. This is the automatic tensioner for the belt system, the serpentine belt. So this actually sheared off. The belt kind of wrapped around some things with the crank spinning, actually pulled this idler pulley right off, and this was connected to something very large, the bracket system that holds the power steering pump and the alternator. So was pretty kind of shocked what had happened. It actually took out the air conditioning system as well. So basically I started looking for a new bracket, and I saw the bracket cost, I think $180, something along those lines. And I thought, there's got to be something here. And that's where I found LSX Innovations. So basically LSX Innovations creates a bracket system kit for guys that are swapping LS motors into hot rods, Corvettes, older Corvettes, things like that. And so they create a bracket system that uses the spacing of either the truck spacing, the Camaro spacing, or the Corvette spacing. I believe that's the three. And so I thought, well, hey, I've got Corvette spacing because I've got a Corvette. So talked to the owner of that company, small company located there in Bend, Oregon. Great company to support in these types of times. Everything's made here in the United States. So I talked to them and I said, hey, look, this is the situation I have, and I'm wondering if your kit can possibly help me out. And so surprisingly, he emailed right back and he said, man, it's no problem. He said, I will tell you, it's not really designed for what you're doing, but and also the Corvette alternator, there's a small modification you're going to have to make to the bracket, but otherwise there's no reason it shouldn't work. So basically he sent me the kit. Check out the install. So guys, this is where things got tricky, because to take the C5 power steering pump off, you have to actually break this off, this pulley. So I initially started with some dikes, but I resorted to this method of using a hole saw, and there's actually room here. This was the safest way, and as I did it, it broke pieces off. So after some work, inevitably you're going to gain access to these two bolts here, and those are the ones that release the bracket that releases the power steering. Now guys, for some reason, if you watch Froggy, he releases the power steering line from the bottom, but I easily got it from the top with this wrench. Now guys, the power steering reservoir, one bolt comes out easily from this side, but this one's trapped, so you're going to have to release the entire reservoir, this drain line, first to pull it out. So after releasing some final bolts, I did have the lower line still slightly attached by a few threads, but after that, the power steering pump and the bracket have to come out as a unit. So the next job is going to be to get that off. Hopefully that's not a problem. As you can see, this is what broke off here and caused me to have to remove this bracket and install the LSX Innovations kit, which we will see here shortly. So after picking up the tool at Harbor Freight, I was able to change out that power steering pulley with the C6 version, But look at this bracket kit. Aesthetically, it is much better than the stock bracket. As seen here, this is the new C6 metal pulley, and only 2 long Allen bolts mount this to the bracket system, so greater access in the future. And with that being said, once this unit is in place, it gives you so much more room considering how tight that area is. And here I am coming from the top, putting that lower line back on. Very easy. So this is the actual idler pulley that had broken off. Obviously this is the replacement, but really quality parts from LSX Innovations. Everything is very nicely made, no sharp edges, really quality pieces. So I did notice when I reinstalled the alternator, it is very tight to the 1 bolt here on the coil pack, but I've had no issues and it's not caused a problem. And now to eliminate that common problematic tensioner from the LSX motors. But as you can see, guys, the one issue I did run into is because of our throttle body design and the fact that the motor for the throttle body controls in here, our power steering reservoir sits in front of it. And that was something that when I took away the distance of the bracket, the OEM bracket, I was left with distance there. And let me explain that. So guys, if you take a look at LSX Innovations website, and you can see they've created this bracket system with 3 different spacings. And so when they put it on the website, they kind of put it onto an LS motor basically that's configured with an intake manifold but no throttle body. And that's kind of what threw me off initially. I had finished installing the kit and I'd gotten to the point of mounting the power steering reservoir. Everything in there that's indicated correctly on LSX Innovations website just doesn't account for only the fact that when you use the Corvette throttle body with the motor, I think most of these people that are swapping are using the cable throttle body. If you do have the actuator in there though, that pushes the Corvette power steering reservoir obviously outward in front of that. So that's kind of what delayed me. I did just kind of rig it in place, and with everything that's been happening in the country, that's what's delayed the creation of this video. So here, trying to square it up and get everything done, I decided, you know what, I just need to make some spacers. And so that's what I did, and I jumped out and just designed something quick in Fusion 360, printed them out of ABS, and obviously ABS can take the underhood temperatures, and created 2 spacers there to just configure so that I can space the power steering pump, or reservoir, excuse me, outward in front in the stock location. So this is probably something LSX Innovations can either provide as a spacer setup if you're going to actually configure that reservoir in place with your Corvette. So that may be something you want to mention, or you can source spacers obviously on the internet. And I can even include the dimensions and the design that I specifically put on this one, but it's pretty universal. You would just want something that would take up that spacing, create a sleeve essentially over the bolt. That's the only issue that I ran into it, but frankly guys, it's a great mod. It really, to me, it gives a lot more access to an engine bay that's already pretty tight. So the big advantage that you're going to have here is the fact that you don't have the automatic tensioner. And so eliminating that tensioner does require that you occasionally retension the belt, but the fact is you're eliminating a failure point. So that's a big benefit. And obviously now having removed the power steering pulley and things like that, I won't have to face that issue again. So that's a big benefit as well. So guys, I really appreciate you checking out the video. Please take a look at LSX Innovations website. I'm sure if some of you Corvette guys have interest in this, it would be no problem for him to just make a few additions, very minor changes in that kit, obviously, to adapt right to using the Corvette throttle body. So definitely not an issue on LSX Innovations end, just something because I'm kind of adapting to use in this type of chassis. So definitely give them a call if you're interested in that mod. Let them know KnightDriveTV sent you. I appreciate you watching, guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Have an update on these headlights coming very soon, and it's going to be good. So check it out next time. See you on the next one.